Welcome back, everyone. This is part 3 to a 3-part series on fencing on a budget. Now, the first 2 videos, one was on goat fencing and small animal fencing. The other video was on horse fencing and cattle fencing. Now, on this video, I'm going to be showing some different types of wire, different insulators, different tools and stuff that you would use to build your fence. Now, there's lots of other stuff. I'm not showing you everything here. I'm showing you what I use, really. And it's, I think, the most common stuff anyways. So, to get started here, we have, this is a roll of barbed wire. Now, this is what I have left from the goat video, from the goat fence that you've seen. This is, like I said, 15 gauge barbed wire. It comes in a roll just like that. You know, when I first started, the roll was out pretty big. And this is a cool little gadget that I picked up at Tractor Supply when I bought the wire. This is pretty handy. What it'll do, hooks on the handle just like that. Let's get out of the sunlight here. Hooks on the handle just like that, and as you're walking, you'll put the end of your wire. This will be secured to a post, and you'll start walking off your fence line. And as you're walking, this allows your hand to stay stationary, and the barbed wire twist on that little handle there. I just thought that was pretty cool. I'd never seen one of those. So I'd always walked with barbed wire and twisted my hand, or either put a metal rod through here and held it, which was kind of strenuous. But anyways, that's with the barbed wire. Right here we have a roll of high tensile wire. Now, this is what I've got left out of that second roll I was talking about I had to buy for my horse pasture. Now, this roll of high tensile is actually mounted on a little stand they make for it, and it's sitting upside down. But the whole roll, when you buy it, these little things here, you loosen up that nut right there, and you've got them on all 4 prongs here. Let's move that out of the way. But you got it on all 4 prongs, and you can take this roll on and off of this stand. Well, this will drive down into the ground, so this stand will stay stationary. And this works exact opposite of the barbed wire. Wherever the end's at on here, you'll just leave this drove down in the ground at a corner post or something, and you'll take the end and pull it out your fence line and take it to wherever you're going to attach it to the next post. So that's something that helps tremendously when you're doing a high tensile wire fence. Alright, so first off, let's start by looking at some posts. Now, these here is just your typical T-post. This one is about I think a 5-foot post, and it's nothing at all. Nothing, it's just an old T-post. It's got down here, you've got those ears, and once those ears go in the ground, that'll kind of help hold the post straight and keep it from twisting. So these are some 8-foot T-posts, but you typically don't use them that long. This is what I was talking about, the tool I was talking about I use to tamp the ground around each wooden post that I put in. You see, you'll just like that right there, and you'll pack that dirt around. And being a little, where it's heavy and the diameter of it is small, it'll really pack the dirt tight. I mean, you don't just go a couple of times to pack it. You have to constantly tamp around and around that post. Then go back, put more dirt in, tamp, and you will get that ground tight. Alright, we're going to walk around to the other side of the building here, and I've got some of these little round posts, and I've got my little collection of telephone poles over here that we use for fence posts. So here, now these are the actual post, the actual round post that you would buy. You can see there's pretty much a rebar. That's all it is. It's maybe 3 foot tall. And those round insulators, like I was showing you in the second video, those just go on there, loosen up, and they can slide up and down that post. This is an extremely cheap way of doing fence post. This one is actually made out of 1/2 inch metal rod. Same concept, except these can be done cheaper, and they're a little heavier rod because that rebar post, like I showed you, that was actually bought from a Tractor Supply or either a farm supply store. I don't remember where they came from, but these, like I said, can't be bought. You have to buy a stick of 1/2 inch rod and then cut them to your length you want. But they are just a little heavier rod, and they're a little more durable, and they actually work out to be cheaper. This right here would be your typical wooden fence post like you would buy. You would use that size post for like a line post. You wouldn't want that for a corner post because it's not really big enough and to have a whole lot of tension put on it. All right, now this, if you keep a check on your local Craigslist ad or paper or anywhere, your newspaper, people sell telephone poles all the time. There's a whole load of telephone poles. Now, these are some big poles, and I can get at least 2 or 3 posts out of each one of those poles. I paid, when I've already used 2 or 3 posts, 2 or 3 poles out of this pile, and I paid right at $200 for all of this. I can tell you right now, you're not going to go to the farm supply store and buy that many wooden posts for $200, and you're not going to get them that big. And having posts this big really helps when you're only using one post for a corner post or an end post, because they'll hold the pressure of pulling against that post better. So when you put a big post in the ground, it's going to hold, whereas if you put that little post I just showed you 4 foot in the ground, it's not going to hold near as good. All right, so now let's talk about some insulators. This is the main part of your fence anyways. This, if you have an electric fence, you've got to have insulators on it, or not your fence is just going to ground out against your posts, and it's not going to work. So first off here, what we have, this is just a glass insulator. I'm trying to move you out of the sun. All right, this is just a glass insulator. This would nail to a wooden post. Put a nail through that hole. Your wire would run across the top of it, and then you'll actually take another wire. I've got one laying here somewhere. But anyways, I don't see it now. Well, I'll show you what you can do. It's exactly what I do. You get a little roll. Well, right here it is. See that little roll of wire? I keep this around just to make tie down, sort of. So what you would do, let's pretend this screw is your wire, your fence wire. That's your fence wire running there. You would wrap the wire like this. My hands are cold, y'all. You gotta excuse me here. It done got cold and stiff on me this morning. Okay, you would just wrap the wire around a screw like that. Insulator goes here. And then, this is hard to do with just 2 hands. Then you would pull the wire back around the insulator and twist on this side. And so, you see how that works? And you might think, well, why not just wrap the wire around the insulator? And that works, but this allows movement in the fence. So if a deer or something crosses that fence and gets tangled up in it, this will allow that to move, and it won't yank the insulator out of the post. And also it won't tear the fence down. All right, so another one we've got would be this type of glass insulator. This would screw into a post, and you would run the wires through this and tie it off. Now this insulator works real good on an end post because you've got a loose strand of wire out there. You can put it through, run the wire through, and pull tight on it and then wrap it. So the only downfall with these screw-in type insulators is if you're putting them in a salt-treated post, which most wooden fence posts are, eventually it will rust this screw off and it'll break and it'll fail. So you'll have to replace it, but that's going to take a few years before you'll have to deal with that anyways. All right, now this is another type of wooden insulator post. Wooden post insulator. Sorry there. This would nail into the post. You've got that hole there, and you would put a nail right through it. Now, you do make a special type of nail for this. I don't have any on hand because I don't really use this type much. But that nail has basically two heads on it. It's got like a regular nail, and then it's got a collar down here to where you don't put the head you're beating against plumb against this insulator. But then this is just kind of obvious. Your wire runs through this end, and this nails to the post. Now, we also have this, which is the same concept, but this would be it's to extend the wire away from your post. So if you've got like a woven wire fence and you want to run an electric strand on the inside of it, you would use this, and that'll keep that wire from, if that wire bends or anything, it won't push against your woven wire to ground out. All right, so now we're going to show you. Got a whole bucket of posts here, of insulators here. I got one more wooden fence insulator. Actually, I told you a lie. I've got 3 more styles of wooden fence insulator that I want to show you. Now this is what I use on my high tensile wire. But you can use it on barbed wire. You can use it on any type of wire. But this basically nails to the post right here and right here. Then your wire goes up into each one of these slots. This big slot here works for like the big cloth wire that's got the metal strand running through it. A lot of people use that for horses and stuff. It fits that, and then your metal wire will fit in this little slot. But this, basically, this little tab goes right down through just like that and holds your wire in place. And once again, the way this works, the way all insulators work, your wire is able to move back and forth, but yet still be held in place. Now these are some really cheap screw-in insulators. This is the plastic ones. These are like what I used on my goat fence. I'm sure at some point in time they're going to break and they're going to fail. But they were cheap and I wanted to try them. It's the same concept. Eventually this will rust off. It's probably going to take several years for it to happen, but it will rust off and you will have to replace this insulator. But anything you put into a salt treated post is eventually going to rust, unless it's like a stainless piece or something like that. But now this is the one I showed you for the spring gate fencing, and it just screws into your post. One side your fence wire hooks to, and one side your spring gate goes into, and it just hooks right in. All right, one other option you've got for corner post is these little round insulators here. These basically, it's just a plastic round insulator. The wire goes through this part. Then you use, okay, sorry about that. This wire will run around your post. It will run through the middle of this insulator, just like that. You'll tie this wire around your post. Now this is just a regular old wire, that, like a copper wire that you would strip out of like wiring that's in your house or something. Some scrap that I had laying around, and you use this to go through there. This will tie off on the back side of your post. This has the electric wire running through it, and you can take and twist that insulator to hold it in place, and your wire is able to flex back and forth and will pull from corner post back out the rest of your line. That one I wish I could show you on a fence. I don't exactly have one of these set up on a fence to show you, but that's another corner fence post option. Okay, now let's get to showing you T-post insulators. Now there's several types of T-post insulators, but the most common one is this. This just basically clips around your T-post. Let me grab a T-post and I'll show you. Basically, all this will do is that little tab there clicks around your T-post. And once again, like I said, everything is cold this morning. This plastic's cold, so it's hot. That just snaps in place, and then this back piece, well, I can't get it right now, but that just locks the insulator onto the back of the post. Now you have, these are the same concept, except it's the long insulator again. And once again, this is for if you have like a woven wire and you want to hold the electric wire away from the woven wire. You've used one of these long insulators here. I believe that's about a 6-inch insulator. Now, this is the insulator that would go over one of those round posts. Basically, you just screw that loose, slide that down on the post, tighten it back on. Nothing to it. These are extremely simple insulators, easy to work with. And this is what I used on the wooden post for the high tensile wire. You see right there, it's got that end, that hole through it, and your high tensile wire simply runs all the way through this, and you would wrap that around your post and then put a little staple right there, and right there to hold it in place. That's pretty simple to use too. So now for some tools that you would need to do your fencing. Now I've already went over one tool, and that was this one here for the bob wire, to tote the bob wire with. That was really handy. This tool is the ratchet, the handle for the ratchets that I showed you on the previous video. There'll be a link for both videos, for the first part and the second part. I'll have them up here at the end of the video. They'll be up in the corners. They'll be up there somewhere. But this is the handle that you would use to work those ratchets. So this would go on the tips of the ratchet, and you would just simply work just like a ratchet strap. So it would work just like here. Right here is a spare ratchet I had laying around. You would put those on there, just like so. I said you would. There it goes. You put those on there just like that, and that bolt going across catches this ratchet, and it just ratchets around. You've got that little clip right there that catches to keep it from unspinning. Then if you wanted to redo it, you can just push that open with your thumb and unwind it. This is the little crimps I was talking about that will hold your high tensile wire in place. I've got a bag here that's already open. See that there? Now you probably can't see it on the camera, but inside of those holes there's like a grit, almost like a sandpaper, and that, once it's crimped, that helps hold that wire in there tight. So right here is your pliers that you would crimp them with. Now this pair of pliers is not a cheap pair of pliers. I believe they were about 50 bucks, but you'll need them if you do high tensile wire. You put this crimp, after you've got it on your wire, this one fits down into the second hole, and you just crimp it shut. See how that matches? And that will hold down on that wire, and that wire will not come out after you've done that. See it right there, how it's crimped tight. Now I've got one other tool here that's a necessity, especially if you're going to be doing T-post driver. You would put this over top of your T-post. Make sure you don't have any insulators on your T-post when you use it. This would go over top of your T-post and slide down, and you hold it by 2 hands, slide just like that right there, and hammer that post into the ground. Now this particular driver has a hook on the end of it to where you can put your T-post in, and as you're driving it, you can twist it back to if it's not driving straight, because when a rock is in the ground and your T-post hits it, that T-post is going to want to twist, and if your T-post twists, then it's not going to be straight with your fence, so you want to twist it back to how it should be. Now those are some basic tools that you would need doing a fence. I'm sure I'm missing something. If I am, please leave it down in the comments and let me know. And now you obviously, for doing wooden post, at the very least you're going to want a pair of these to dig your holes. But you know, it's nice to have a tractor auger so you can really get down about 4 foot with it and put that post way down in the ground. Now you can dig a 4-foot post with these. I've done it. It's just not something you probably want to do. It'll take you a while. So that's the basics of it. So what I'm going to show you now is a few little tricks and tips that I can give you to help you have a nice looking fence. First off, this is a tobacco stick. Does anybody know what a tobacco stick is? If you do, leave it down there in the comments. I'm sure a lot of you do know what a tobacco stick is, but if you don't, you'll learn later on in another video. But what I have done is carved little notches in this tobacco stick, and that is to put against my T-post or my wooden post or whatever. I put the very bottom of it to the ground, and I put it right beside the T-post, and those notches indicate each place that I want to have an insulator. So I've got a straight even line of insulators all the way out through my fence, so that means my wire ain't gonna be doing this. It's gonna be going straight. Ain't that funny how UPS man always shows up when you're making a video. But anyways, that's a little helpful tip. Now you don't have to use a tobacco stick to do these notches into. You can use a regular, heck, you can use a yardstick. A yardstick will work good. Just take a Sharpie and mark on there each place you want to put your insulator. And this would work with 2 insulators, 3 insulators, 4 insulators, 6 insulators, however many you want to put, however many strands of wire you want to use. Now, one other thing that I can tell you to do, and this will make your fence look good as well, is use carpentry string when you're building your fence, or any type of string to run. What I do is tie this to your corner post or your end post and run it all the way to your next corner post or your next end post or wherever your fence is going to take a bend. And in between there, you use this string as a guide to keep your fence post, to keep your T-post or your metal post or whatever you're putting up straight. So when you look down that fence row, you're looking at a straight line of posts. You're not looking at a post that are doing this like this. I can't stand to drive down the road and see a fence that looks like that. You know, and just because you're doing a fence on a budget, don't mean it don't have to look good. If you're going to do it, make it look good. Alright, there's one other thing I want to show you. I had to come down here to my fence box. This is the main piece to any electric fence. You got to have this. There's your fence box. Now this one is just a Zebra 25-mile fence box. All you do is, this is a ground wire. This is running to a ground stop that I've got drove in the ground. right in here. And if you notice, it's in the drip line of my barn. And you want to put it somewhere where it's going to stay really wet. That way it keeps a good ground. And that ground rod is actually about 3-4 foot long, and it's drove completely down into the ground. You can't even see it down there. It's buried. And then your wire, they make a special clamp that will clamp that wire to the ground rod, and it's all buried underground. Now, this is the hot wires that go to the fence. One of these is running to my horse fence. One of these runs to my goat fence. This wire right here is one like you would have to use if you're putting it underground. It's coated, and it's a really thick coating on it, and it'll protect that wire as it runs underground from rocks and everything else. But they basically just, you take that nut off and slip it in there and tighten the nut back down on it, and that's all it is. There's several types of fence boxes. That's one of the cheaper ones, but it does the job and it works. Like I say, it's running my horse fence and my goat fence, and I can test this fence right now, and it's going to have 7,000 volts on each wire. It does a fine job. But you know, that's the basics of it. Electric fencing is fairly simple. The biggest thing is you got to have a good fence box, and you got to have it grounded right. And if you've got that and you don't have anything on your fence interrupting the power going through it, then you're going to be able to keep animals in that fence. So that's about all I needed to say today. You know, I'm just trying to touch the basics on a whole lot of this stuff. You know, I'm not getting into detail, so this is just the basics to help somebody out if they're just getting started out and they're wanting to build them a fence on their property and keep some animals in. So I hope it helped you out. I hope all these tips helped everybody out. If you have anything else that I'm missing on, or some suggestions or questions or whatever, be sure to leave it down in the comments. I'm going to leave a link to both videos up at the top, to the first part on the first part of the series on the goats, and the second part on the cows and the horses. And as always, thanks for watching. I hope you subscribe to the channel if you like seeing stuff like this, and we'll try to help you out along the way here. We're not a first generation farm by no means. We're an existing farm that's been around for a long time. I'm just kind of in the point where I'm, starting to take over more of the stuff, and I'm doing more than what we used to, and so I'm wanting to put it out there and help everybody else out that's doing this. I want to give some suggestions and tips, and just show people what we do and show people how we live, and hopefully it'll help somebody out. But anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.